Welcome everyone. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what players to dodge in the 2020/2021 season. And first up is Malik Beasley. Now his ESPN rank is 76th overall, while his ESPN average draft position is 98th overall. So I kind of feel like people already know not to draft this guy, but just in case you don't, he's on the list. Now, why is Beasley's value misleading? He shined with the Timberwolves last year. He started, he was on a hot streak, and he was just lights out. Um, he also went from 29th of team possessions per game to first. So when he was on Denver, he was on 29th, and now in Minnesota, they're the fastest team up and down the court. And overall, it's like 8 more possessions per game, and then that's huge. Um, so what fantasy owners should be focusing on is Anthony Edwards, first of all, 2020 number 1 overall draft pick. And he's going to be the player who's starting over Beasley. So right off the bat, Beasley's not going to be getting that 33 minutes a game like he did last year. And also his usage rate is going to drop. He's going to drop at least 6 minutes, maybe even more. And the team's just a little bit better now with Anthony Edwards, so you got to imagine his usage rate is going to drop. Something else I wanted to mention was Malik got paid. Some players, when they get paid, they're like, all right, now I got to prove that I was worth this contract. And I don't get that from him because he's already facing felony weapons and drug charges, and I just don't feel like those two things correlate. Like, I don't think you get paid and you're motivated to not party. I feel like you're paid to go out and do more partying and get more trouble. So I think he's in for quite a down year. Next up is Montrezl Harrell. Now his ESPN rank is 60 and his ESPN ADP is 73rd. So why dodge Harrell? Well, last year he was the 6th man on the Clippers, and now he's going to be an inconsistent rotational player. Like, you have Anthony Davis, Marc Gasol, those two are already starting, and then you have Markieff Morris and Kyle Kuzma. Like, where is his minutes going to come from? Like, who's going to take a dip in minutes so he can play? I don't see it. At most I can see is like 20 minutes a game. Now, who's going to get the minutes in LA? Probably not him. Basically, he's probably going to be the odd man out, but I think it's LA already told him that, and I think he signed with LA specifically to try and win a championship, because he reportedly had better offers elsewhere. Like, I heard Charlotte offered him a starting role and a significant amount of money to go play with Charlotte, but he wanted to go play for a winner. So he went to go play for, the champions from last year. Can't get any better than that, right? So I think he knows what he's getting himself into in that regard. And I don't think he signed with the Lakers for the best reasons. Like, he vented to the media about the Clippers, saying like he didn't like the Clippers didn't want him. So I think there's some feelings with that and the signing and why he might have signed with LA. It could have been out of spite more than fit. So I don't really see much going in Harold's way, like in a positive way. I do think he is going to have a really poor year in terms of fantasy value. Moving on now, my next player on the list is John Wall. Now, I was kind of torn on whether or not I should leave him in here, and I decided to because he was just traded. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about pros and cons, I guess. Like, it could go either way with John Wall right now. Because when he was on the Wizards GM, Tom Shepard, he announced that his minutes were going to be limited and he will not be playing on back-to-backs. So is that going to be the same in Houston, or is he going to be playing, maybe that's why Wall wanted to trade out of Washington, because he didn't want his minutes to be restricted. He didn't want to sit out on back-to-backs. He didn't want the rest. He wanted to go all out. And maybe that's why he wanted out of Washington. I don't know. But what I do know is that he's 30 years old, coming back from an Achilles tear, and his game was always speed. It doesn't, it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna go well for him because he was already regressing before the tear and now coming off of a tear, 30 years old. It doesn't, if he has a good year, I will be surprised. Now, if you look at the table I provided down low, you're going to see how much he regressed over the last few years. 2017 was probably his best year. He shot well. All three categories was 3-point percentages. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't like terribly awful. But you see that 10.7 assists a game, 2 steals a game, 23 points a game, and then you look at these last 2 years where he's only played a grand total of 73 games, and everything's just dipping. Everything dips. What worries me is his free throws went down 10%. His threes clearly inconsistent. He's losing over a half a rebound, but what really scares me is he's losing 2 steals, he's losing 2 assists, a half a steal, and 3 points. They're almost 2.5 points more or less, but his turnovers are staying the same. I don't want any piece of that. Not anywhere close to where he's being drafted. And now I'm seeing after he got traded to Houston, he's even getting drafted higher. I wouldn't risk it, guys. Moving on. My next player on the list is Gordon Hayward. Now, his ESPN rank is 46th and his ESPN ADP is 93rd. Now, leaving Boston had to have been a good thing, right? And it is. Like, he wasn't the lead guy in Boston. But leaving to go to Charlotte, probably not the best thing for him either, because Charlotte has loads of young talent, including Graham, Rozier, Bridges, and now LaMelo Ball. And they're also the slowest paced team in the league. So you know how I mentioned team possessions per game earlier? Well, Charlotte was last. And Hayward has a historically shown poor shooting seasons with a slow-paced team. Back when he was in Utah, 4 of the 5 years, Utah was last in the league in team possessions per game, and the 1 year, his best year, they were 25th. I don't like this fit. I don't understand the signing. Maybe he just wants the money. I'm not sure. But I'm kind of skeptical on drafting him this year. And especially, what happens when Charlotte starts to lose? You know what I mean? Like, are you going to bench Hayward for Bridges to develop young talent or ride it out with Hayward? Come playoff time, I don't think Hayward's going to be putting up any kind of good numbers towards like a positive fantasy value. So I would definitely stay away from him. Next on the list is Brandon Ingram. His ESPN ranked is 29th and his ADP is 27th. Now I know what you're thinking, like, wait, what? Brandon Ingram? Why is he on the list? Well, mainly because of Zion. Zion Williamson is the answer. One other little note is changing of the point guard to be more exact. You had Drew Holiday, and he was, a pass friendly point guard. Bledsoe isn't really that. Bledsoe's more of he has like a shoot first mentality, But go back to Zion Williamson. Last year when Ingram played with Zion in the 22 games he played, he averaged 4 points less, 1.5 rebounds less, more than a half assist less, and over 2 field goal attempts per game, and he just shot worse, 3%, over 3% worse. So if Zion does what he did last year and doesn't play as much, then yeah, I would love to have Ingram on my team. But if Zion plays most of the season, you're probably going to get more numbers on the bottom of this table, or excuse me, the top of the table over the bottom of the table, which is, it's good, but probably not third round worthy. I don't know, maybe fourth or fifth round worthy. But I mean, he's still a good player. I do think he's going to have a good year. I just wouldn't draft him this high up. Next on my list is Kawhi Leonard. His ESPN rank is 13th and his ADP is 17th. And need I say more? It's because of rest, and even more rest. Last year, he just rested his ass off, and I think it's going to be like that again this year, even with Ty Lue. Like, I know Ty Lue, there's I don't want to say rumors, but there's some talk like, oh yeah, Ty Lue will whip up this team in shape and get them to play and stuff. But this is a players' league. Kawhi isn't like any other player in this league. If Kawhi wants to rest, he's gonna rest. And if it comes down to Ty Lue or Kawhi Leonard, who stays, who goes, it's going to be the head coach. It's always going to be the head coach. Kawhi is one of the best players in the league, but I wouldn't draft him because I wouldn't want to have to deal with subbing him out every other game and trying to find a replacement for him. Now his stats when he does play, they are round two worthy, but it's just how much is he going to play? I don't want to chance it. There's going to be a lot of back-to-backs this season. I don't want any part of it. And the last guy on my list, the best player in the world, LeBron James. His ESPN rank is 10 and his ADP is 5th. Now, he is the best player in the world, but man, he turns 36 in December 30th. So we're going to be just 1 week into the season. He's going to be 36. He's going to be playing basically this whole season at 36 years old. And 36-year-old with only a 71-day off season, that's like a recipe for disaster, you know? Like, he's going to need the rest. He's going to be a lot like Kawhi Leonard this year. Like, if he doesn't need the rest, he just isn't human, you know? Like, in that regard, drafting him that high up, which I'm seeing people draft him as high as some mock drafts, I'm seeing like 3 to 5. And that's just crazy to me because you're in a position in the first round where you can't win your championship, but you can most certainly lose it. And I do believe if you draft LeBron James, you're going to have such a much harder time winning a championship this year opposed to drafting any other player. Alright, so just to recap this video, these players might have great years, but it's unlikely any of these players will finish as high as their average draft position. Beasley should be considered to be like a 12th round or later. Like, I'm not a believer in Beasley this year. Harrell shouldn't even be drafted. Like, you don't know what you're going to get from him on any given night because you don't know when LeBron and AD are going to rest. And when they don't rest, he's not going to be on the floor often. But he's going to put up like randomly, inconsistently good games when they do rest. So, I mean, unless you're okay with dealing with that, I wouldn't draft him. The Gordon Hayward signing with Charlotte is the beginning of the end for him, in my opinion. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So, taking a chance on him in the 10th round or later won't lose you the championship this year, so I wouldn't mind doing that. But I don't even know if he'll be roster worthy come playoff season because, like, if Charlotte starts losing and they try and get rid of Hayward, they might just bench him so he doesn't get injured and barely even play him and put in Bridges just to let him roll with Bridges. That's a very it's a possibility. Charlotte still doesn't look like a winning team either. So the latter is very likely to happen. Brandon Ingram has shown great promise, but his name is not Zion. He will not be worth any kind of reach if you decide to reach for him. And I could see like later in the 3rd round, like if you're in the last pick of the 3rd round to take him, or 4th round, because like when he's a number 1 option, he's worth it. But when Zion plays, it's Zion's show. And Zion's had 10 months, not only just to be healthy, but to improve his game. John Wall has regressed before his Achilles injury and has no idea how well, now Houston will use Wall. He should not be drafted before the 10th round, in my opinion. Even still, you just don't know what you're going to get. And over the last few years, he's just been so injury prone. Just like at the beginning of his career, he was labeled as an injury prone player, and then there was like a span of like 4 or 5 years where he wasn't anymore. And then I don't know what happened. These last 3 years have been horrific again. Kawhi Leonard rested last year, and he's going to rest even more this season. I wouldn't touch him before like the 4th round, maybe the 3rd round, somewhere in that range. I personally don't want to deal with subbing him out and picking up a waiver and wasting a waiver pickup on a player who's not even injured, especially in this kind of year with COVID. And last but not least, LeBron James is still the best player in the world, but I would rather give up on a player a year too early, especially at 36 years old, than a year too late. If he doesn't maintain 1st round value, you can lose your league this year. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I hope this was very informative, and I hope you enjoyed.